Friends, this is Frederick Henry, and thank you very much for listening to the Frederick Henry podcast. I want to just upfront just say thank you. I am so happy that so many of you have been willing to give a listen, to give a download, and to give a chance. And so I hope I meet your expectations. I hope that this is enjoyable for you because let me just tell you, these podcasts are meant to be one individual citizen voter in the United States of America speaking to other individual citizen voters in the United States of America about all things pertaining to Trump. That's the point. And I hope it's a conversation. I know it's one way. I said if you want to go on to the Frederick Henry Show at wordpress.com, the Frederick, Frederick, Henry Show at wordpress.com. You can make comments. I will get them. However, this is a one-way show. It's not dialogical because I've explained this in the past. I don't have a staff. I don't have a Snerdley. I'm not Rush Limbaugh and the like more. And by the way, up front and personal, I just want to right away, I want to thank Don Bongino. What a wonderful guy. Don Bongino. What a wonderful guy. Great programs. The Don Bongino Show podcast. Of course, Rush Limbaugh, 50 million listeners. 50 million people every day listen to Rush Limbaugh. Unbelievable. Then you have Hannity. Of course, I love Hannity. The thing I got about Hannity is that Hannity has a tendency to repeat, list, bang like a hammer. I love him. Great guy. A true American patriot. I listen to him every day, but he drives me crazy with the listing, the repeating, and the hammering. But okay, Hannity. I love him. Then you have the magnificent The Still Report. The Still Report. STILL. The Still Report. Also on YouTube. Wonderful guy. Has a great history of reporting. He has great insights. He's sharing with everyone a lot of great stuff. And if you give a listen, The Still Report. STIL. He's The Still Report. Still doing his podcasting and the like more. I mentioned Don Bongino, Black Conservative Patriot. I don't know the man's actual name, but he calls himself Black Conservative Patriot. He calls his wife Mrs. Black Conservative Patriot. His children are the announcers for his program. He's a wonderful guy. He stands in front of an American flag painted on a wall of brick. He's a big Trump supporter. Wasn't always a Trump supporter. Now is a Trump supporter. And he is 100% a Trump supporter. Wonderful guy. And then Laura Ingraham. I love Laura Ingraham. I listen to Laura Ingraham every night. However, Laura sometimes startles me. You have, last night we had the New York, the actual, right now, New York City police commissioner pleading with the president to send federalized troops into New York City because he said the de Blasio administration has hamstrung, has tied behind their backs, has squashed, and forbid the New York City police force to control a situation that they were very capable of controlling. And he put the onus directly on Mayor de Blasio, and I'm surprised by today he hasn't been fired. And another former police commissioner also echoed the same thing. And then Laura went on this oddball thing in the middle of it saying, well, seriousness on the left, seriousness on the right, and number one seriousness, the police commissioner, former police commissioner seriousness, but I am upset. Laura, am upset when people spit on cops. Well, I got it, Laura. People are dying. Police cars are being burned. Whole entire blocks of the city are going up in flames. And you know that. And Antifa is getting away with all kinds of terrorism across the entire nation. And then you come up with something trite like, well, I hate it when people spit on a policeman. If that's all that was going on, we would thank God. But it's a lot more serious than that. I love Laura. She's a great gal. I'm for Laura 100%. And believe me, I'm a big Laura fan. However, that triviality stuff just drives me up the wall. And so, before we get into the meat and potatoes of today's podcast, I again want to thank you. I want to tell you this is completely on my dime. I don't have many sponsors. I don't ask for money. I'm not after your money. I'm not going to call you. I don't want all that information about your credit card, all that good stuff. I just want to speak to you. And I hope eventually, if I could get a little more money, I don't have any money, but if I could get a little bit more money, I would have a two-way street. I would have a dialogical conversation. But I don't have that. And until some deep pockets, big buck guy or gal comes along and says, I like what I hear, and here's the money, it ain't going to happen. So let me pause here a minute, and then we'll get right back to you. Thank you very much. Okay, my dear friends, I want to just congratulate the American people. I want to congratulate you and your children and your families. 12 weeks ago, the president, under the impression that 200 million people were going to get the COVID thing, and under the impression from his scientific advisors, his administrative advisors, his epidemiologists, all these people, Dr. Fauci, Dr. Birx, all these people, assuring him that not only 200 million people would come down with the COVID-19 virus, but that 2.4 million people would die. That didn't happen. Thank God. Praise God. The president shut down travel from China. He shut down travel from Europe. He instituted an entire program of social distancing and masks and all that kind of stuff. He paid a high price in watching his economy that he, with our help, built to the greatest economy ever seen in 100 years, be systematically destroyed. And as our prayer and our hope, and I believe is going to happen, he will build it up with our help again. But I want to thank you. He said, I'm asking you, the American people, to comply with very difficult restrictions. I'm asking you, the American people, to comply with the governor's demands, A and B and C, or whatever they were. And you did. The American people did it. We didn't have a revolt. We didn't have insurrection. We didn't have running around burning buildings. We didn't do all that kind of stuff. We just thought it over. It was a reasonable request given the information that we had at the time. And then that all peacefully happened. Then, subsequent to that, the president continued over several weeks to ask us to continue to submit to these very difficult restrictions, and we did. And then the president asked us to return to our churches, and we did. And the president asked us to return to our businesses and the like more. And in those places where the governors allowed us, mainly Republican governors, we did, and everything's fine. But the Democrat governors, New York, New Jersey, California, Virginia, these governors are Michigan, shame, Minnesota, shame, Pennsylvania, shame, unbelievable, locking down the people, locking down the society, destroying the business, destroying family businesses, destroying people's livelihood, destroying historic situations, monuments, and the like more. Unbelievable. And these governors, Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, Virginia, California, they should be held accountable. Shame on them to hate America enough, or maybe even just to hate Donald Trump enough as to be willing to destroy an entire society, an entire economy, and millions of people's lives just to get your ounce of vengeance. Shame on Schumer, shame on Pelosi, and all those folks. Okay, enough said on that. We know what that means. If you don't like it, shut me off. If you know what I'm talking about and you agree, keep listening. Okay, now we have come to the point where we have to say back to the president, Mr. President, thank you very much. You did a great job, but we're not staying home anymore. We're not going to social distance anymore. We're not going to wear masks everywhere we go. We want our swimming pools open. We want our parks open. We want our beaches open. We want our daycare centers open. We want our camp for children, summer camps open. And we definitely want our schools open in September. No questions asked. All our schools. Now, colleges are private, but all public colleges should be mandated to open. That's the reality of it. And then we'll move on from there. Let us be free. Take the shackles off of us. Take the ankle braces off of us. Take the yoke from off our neck. Let us decide what we want to do, and we will do it, and we will make the right decisions. We didn't know what was happening before. We didn't know about this disease before. We didn't know the ramifications before. And therefore, we acted in compliance with your request, Mr. President, because your request was reasonable and for our benefit and our health. Now we have more information. Now we know what really is going to happen. Now we know the answers to the problem. And now we will make the decisions. They're no longer yours, Mr. President. And they're no longer yours, Mr. Governor. And they're no longer yours, Mr. Mayor. They're our decisions. We are free people in a free country and a free constitution. And we're not going to be suppressed. We're not going to be smacked down. We're not going to be told what to do as though we were so many petulant children. We're not. We have willingly agreed to comply, and we have, and we very successfully. And now, in consideration of that compliance, let's move on. Let's lift all the restrictions, and let's get out of this mess that we've created for ourselves. Reasonably understood how it happened. But now that we know how it happened and why it happened, we have a better information on how to correct it and how to get back to a prosperous economy and an employed citizenry and people who have hope, faith, and courage. No doubt about that. So let's do that, okay? Now, let's pause in a minute. I'll be right back. Okay, things in the news, my friends. This Judge Sullivan thing, I don't even know what to do. I'm not a lawyer, except to say that if the prosecution doesn't prosecute and they don't want to carry the case forward, if the whole Department of Justice of the United States of America, federal government, says we're not going to prosecute a case against General Flynn, then Judge Sullivan, in my opinion, not being a lawyer, has no choice but to step aside and to drop everything. He's not a prosecutor. He's not a district attorney. He's not an attorney general. He's supposedly a judge. And once the case has been withdrawn, and once the evidence has been shown to be inadequate, and once the people who are in charge of prosecution and carrying indictments say that there is nothing there because these are the facts and shows the judge the facts, then the judge has nothing to do but to step aside. That Judge Sullivan is not doing that is an egregious miscarriage of justice, which should be immediately corrected by this appellate division, by the appeals courts, and by fellow judges, and by ethics committees and the like more. Personally, I think Judge Emmett Kelly should buy a... So that's that piece. And I think it will be... Of course, we have John Roberts on the Supreme Court, and he is another Emmett Sullivan who believes that he is the arbiter of truth, justice in the American way, and not just one of 9 justices. He is obviously full of himself. That's the only thing I can say. So let's pause there, and I'll be right back. Okay, we're going to wrap this up in 3 minutes, my friends. First of all, thank you for downloading. Thank you for pressing that like button. Many of you didn't press it. If you do like this podcast, if you think it's meaningful and worthwhile, please press the like button. It helps a great deal with ratings and with the streaming host provider. And it also provides me with a sense of accomplishment. Okay, now there are many people who want to point fingers at Comey, Brennan, Strzok, Page, Clapper, Rosenstein, etc. We should do that. I think we should point those fingers. And not only point those fingers, but clench those fists. I think we should beat these people into telling us the truth, force them under oath to tell us the truth, not to dissemble and to give us sort of quasi-answers like Rosenstein did today, but force them to give us factual answers, date and time and place. And I think that these people should be held in contempt of Congress because they obviously have been proven to have lied. There's no question in my mind about that. And they have been proven to have lied in many areas of testimony. In Rod Rosenstein's case, from the top to the bottom, completely false. Shame. But more than shame, let's find out if this is criminality. And if it is, then let's bring in the prosecutors and set up the case and then bring them to a court, a judge, and a jury and find out his or her fate because they acted the way they did. You know, what are you going to do? You know, that's the way they act. It's strange indeed. Okay, let me pause here a minute. Okay, friends, as we wrap this up, I just want to again ask you if your particular iteration of this podcast has a like button. Please, if you like what you heard, check it. It means a lot to me, and it means a lot to the